We had a fairly early start today, and the first cab off the rank was Khufu, the largest of the pyramids. This is the first day of being split into the two groups, and once the bus arrived, we headed off with Adham to the base of Khufu to listen to the history introduction. I'll split the video today into segments as it is quite long. What you're looking at the moment is the drive in the bus from Giza Pyramids Resort to the Pyramids location.
Okay. So before we start to talk about the Giza Plateau, we need to dig a little bit earlier than this so we can start to understand ancient Egypt, what was the beginning of this civilization, what was the reasons, what was here even before all of this. So this is going to take us back to before. You all can hear me well? To before 3200 BC. So before 3200 BC. What was here in Egypt? Desert. And the majority of the population back then used to live on the western and eastern deserts of ancient Egypt. And there was a little tiny civilization, a farming community. Nowadays, let's say this area is about 30 kilometers north from Mosul City. This is the oldest civilization ever existed in Egypt, called Makata civilization. It's before 3200. A small, tiny farming community that lived behind some jars and vases made out of clay that we're going to see tomorrow at the Egyptian Museum. Away from this, the majority used to live in the desert, depending on the savanna woods. After a few years that came without no rains, they had to search for food. So we have eastern, western desert, then we have the Nile Valley. Nile Delta and the Nile Valley. It's the small green patch around the Nile Valley, which is like 10% of the Egyptian land. Which is like 10% of the Egyptian land. So they left the desert, traveling deep into the land, exploring more, trying to find food. Those who live in the desert, we call them Bedouins, like nomads, nomadic life. When they found all the green around the Nile Valley, we kept the same pattern of life, the nomadic life, just feeding everything and moving from one point to the next. Then when the flood comes, it used to force them to travel away from the Nile Valley. Then after the flood water goes down, they travel back to the Nile Valley. This is when they started to see things growing up. So this is when they started to learn about agriculture. So this is when they started to settle down instead of just traveling and feeding with everything, and they become farming communities. So we had little tiny farming communities all over the Nile Valley, north and south. Those communities have become small cities, and then we had two kingdoms. Kingdom of North and the Kingdom of South. Upper Egypt, Lower Egypt. Which is Upper Egypt?
Delta.
Here. No. Upper Egypt is the south. Lower Egypt is the north.
It runs up on
As this is the nature of the African continent, you travel to the south, you travel to the upper land. And this is why also the Nile River is one of three all over the world that flows from south to north, not from north to south. So, Upper Egypt is the south. Lower Egypt is the north. North is Hutu. South is Nikin or Nechin. So those are the two kingdoms. In the year 2960 BC, this is when the king of Nikin, Upper Egypt, the south, decided to end all the chaos and the wars, the attacks between north and south, and unify the King Mina or King Narmer.
He would have been the rich. They were the rich people.
The south, yes. So he was organized, he had a big army, so he decided to march his army from the south to the north. He defeated the king of the north and did the unification of north and south. So Egypt was unified 2690 BC, and this is when it received its first name as a country. Kemet. What Kemet means is the black soil. The silt that comes with the flood, that fertilizes the soil, that heals the soil, that gives them life, the reason of this word. 2690 BC. Starting from this, we can say this was the beginning of this great civilization, the unification. So we divide the timeline from the unification as Old Kingdom, Middle Kingdom, New Kingdom. 2690 BC till 1700, Old Kings. 1740 till 1550, Middle Kingdom. Then New Kingdom from 1550 till the year 330 PC. This is New Kingdom. So what happened in 332 exactly PC? Alexander the Great. So the beginning of the Greco-Roman era. From 332 BC all the way to 330 AD. Over 600 years of Greeks, then Romans. And after them came sometimes some of the Nubians, which are the native people of the south, the Libyans ruled, then the Persians, the Byzantine, the Arabs, Ottomans, French colony, British colony. So from 332 BC till 1952 AD, Egypt has been ruled by foreign hand rulers. Starting Alexander the Great, all the way up to King Farouk, the last king that ruled Egypt. And in about 1951, the generals made a coup against the king and he was exiled to UK. And Egypt is not a kingdom anymore, it had become a republic. And then came the first president, Mohammed Najib, one of the generals, then Sadat, then Nasser, then Mubarak. So this is modern history. Mubarak from 1982 all the way up to 2011, the revolution against Mubarak. The Muslim Brotherhood in 2013 for 1 year. Another revolution in 2014 against the Muslim Brotherhood. And then we have nowadays president, which is Abdel Fattah al-Sisi from 2014 till now. Back to ancient Egypt. All Middle New Kingdoms. All the Middle Kingdoms decided to keep the capital of ancient Egypt here in the north. So obviously, most of those kings of those two kingdoms came from the south. So they had good control in the south, so this is why they decided to keep the capital up in the north so they can control the north. Where is this capital? The area where is Memphis and Saqqara now. So Memphis or Menf is the ancient Egyptian name. Memphis is the Greek name for the first capital of ancient Egypt. So Menf is Memphis. See. So this was the capital of Old and Middle Kingdoms. Then the New Kingdom kings moved the capital all the way down to the south, to Waset. Waset is the ancient Egyptian name of Luxor city nowadays. So the capital of all the middle is Menf or Memphis, here in the north. The capital of New Kingdom is Luxor, Wasit in the south. Then Alexander the Great. He saw the two islands by the Mediterranean, Pharos and Rakuda, and saw the opportunity of building a city over those islands, which is Alexandria. When Alexandria is ready, the capital was moved from Luxor to Alexandria. So this is the three ancient capitals of this country. Menf or Memphis, Luxor, Wasit, Alexandria. Then the Arabs, the French, the capital was moved to become Cairo. So these are the capitals of this city during the time. So all Britain knew Memphis and Wasit. So as old and middle here in the north, so we're gonna start now to talk about what we're gonna see in the north here. Everything here in the north, more than 70-80% is about Old Kingdom. Middle Kingdom wasn't that strong as old as New. And Egypt was disunified again into two countries, and the unification of the country happened again by the New Kingdom. So Middle Kingdom is days of weakness and darkness and chaos and disunification until a strong king came by the end of it, did the unification, and it was the beginning of the new kingdom. So now, in order to understand what we're gonna see, we move to another subject, which is the cult, the beliefs of the ancient Egyptians. Ancient Egypt was a very religious country, a very religious country. Everything was broken by the temple. So it means we have two big powers: royal families, priests. And those two big powers, what made the balance and created a strong kingdom: royal families and priests. And by eventually, when the priests have become much more powerful than royal families, and they disappeared, we lost the balance, we lost the country. We had the generals, royal families, and we had the priests. So the cult, the beliefs of the ancient Egyptians, they strongly believed in the afterlife, eternal life. So this life that they have is like a short journey to will prepare yourself to the eternal life. Life and this, we can't see the sun now, but soon we're going to see it. It's about the sun. So the sun god, Amun. The sun rises each morning from the east, dies each night on the west. So they live. It is the same now. So they live on the east side of the Nile, and only when they die they cross to the west. So anything that belongs to ancient Egypt that is located on the west side of the river Nile is to do with the afterlife. Anything is located on the east side is to do with life, worship, cult. And before I say that, forget about the Mummy movie, I love it. But Scarab does not eat humans. Scarab is the god of luck, Shivers, the early morning sun. So with the sunrise, back when the environment was much better than this, thousands of those scarabs, they come out from the sand and they fly to the fields. Scarab is like dung beetle. They feed on animal shits, so they clean actually the fields. But the thing is, they don't just eat it. They take it, shape it like discs, and they use the back feet to push it back to the nest. So here is the image that came to the ancient Egyptians. Those scarabs, in the early morning, they believe that the sun rises up from the sand, means resurrection. And you see lots of scarabs coming out from the sand with it. Those are the souls of the dead that made it through the journey to the afterlife, the 12 hours of night. And they believe that there is a giant scarab that is responsible to push the sun disk each morning from the sand to the middle of the sky. So they named this giant scarab Kib, the early morning sun, the god of luck. Each sunrise means a new life. So who does this? The scarab. So sunrise, sunset, life and this. So now we are at Giza. Giza and Cairo. Cairo is the east side of the Nile, Giza is the west side of the Nile. So those are what we call together Grand Canyon, where it's about 24 million now. This is where the pollution comes from. So Giza is located to the west side of the rift. Means that everything in Giza is to do with the afterlife, such as this pyramid. Lots of theories about the pyramids. Are they tombs? Are they something else? Lots of theories. But we're gonna start from the beginning of the royal tomb. The royal tomb didn't start as you see it now. The royal tomb started as they choose areas as where we are now, the Giza Plateau, higher ground, upper ground to be safe from the flood water. And then we dig under the ground. We dig to make a room under the ground because the bedrock here, as you can see, is limestone. So they carve a burial chamber. And then they send the dead body. And then we cut a big piece of limestone to seal this. And they carve a small pyramid to be kept on top. So this was the first royal tomb. It used to be called Mastaba. Mastaba. And this is even before they figured out the embalming or the mummification. So they used to send the body into the room and fill the room with sand and seal it. So sometimes this mastaba is not just for a king, maybe for a whole royal family. So when they came back to reopen the mastaba to send another big member from the same family, this is when they see what's happening to the human body. Decomposing, deteriorating. Except of two things, fingernails and hair. Those two, they last naturally for a very long time. So this is what drove the curiosity of the ancient Egyptians to study.
You know how you got all these different kings, so they've got to have power from somewhere. They have their own armies, or
They have their own armies, plus it's like a royal blood.
oh, it's just worldwide.
Yeah. So when they found this is what brought the curiosity to study the human body, to try to decide why, and to try to figure a way how to preserve the whole body as fingernails and hair. Nowadays, we cannot say that we completely understand this process, or the embalming, the mummification. We can say we know a little bit about it. We know the steps maybe of this process, but there is still something missing. There is still something missing. Maybe some herbs, some oils, something that they do through the process that we still don't know. We might know 80-85% of knowledge about the mummification, but not 100%. So I'm missing something like the recipe of KFC. Same when it comes to the mummification. We're still missing something. How to make the mummy crunchy, we don't know yet. So when they figured out this, now we know how to preserve the human body. They're not gonna send it to the sand. So they started to carve or to make coffins out of wood, or to carve sarcophagus out of limestones or granites, to keep the mummy inside, then to send inside this room and seal it. Then the kings, they started to ask the architects to build the tomb. It seems to look like a pyramid. So what does the pyramid have to do with the tomb? Why the pyramidal shape? Why when even they built this room under the ground, they carve a pyramid and keep on top?
Points to the stars. Sun. Stars. Sun is the star.
Most of the answers to the ancient Egyptian questions is going to lead you to the sun. So, pyramids, sun rays. When the sun rays reach to the ground, reach to earth, it shapes pyramids. And Amun-Ra, the king of the gods, the sun god, you need to follow him in his journey through the 12 hours of night. Because they believe that the sun dies behind the mountains of the west side, travels through the sand, and rises up again from the east. So this, we are talking about the kingdom of darkness. Who's gonna show you the path? Who's gonna light up for you the path through the journey of the sun? So you need to follow the sun. This is your guide through the 12 hours of night. So this is where the idea, where the concept of the pyramid came from. So the kings, they asked the architects to build the tomb itself to look like a pyramid. And this is when they started to face a big challenge. How they're gonna distribute the weight of those thousands of tons of stones that they're gonna use away from crashing the gap, the burial chamber. In the very beginning, and we can say that this rule can fix this problem for. If we say now we still have like 109 pyramids still stand all over Egypt, this rule can apply to 108 out of those 109. As those 108 I'm talking about, inside each one there is one burial chamber. So which is the one that doesn't apply for? The Great Pyramid. This is a different story. The rest, how they did it? This is the bedrock. Limestones. It can lift up the weight. So they use the bedrock as a foundation and they start to rock cut the burial chamber deep into the bedrock. Like in Saqqara, the Stick Pyramid, the burial chamber underneath it is 110 meters deep. So you have at least 90 meters of the bedrock as a foundation to lift up the stones. So this is how they beat the challenge for those pyramids. But when it comes to the Great Pyramid, no. Because here we have 3 burial chambers, not just one, as a rock-cut tomb under the ground. We have one as a rock-cut tomb under the ground, connected to another one in the middle, connected to another one on top. So we have 3 burial chambers, one under the ground and 2 inside this construction, all connected together with corridors. We have 2 ventilation shafts, one that comes from the east, one that comes from the west, all the way through the pyramid to the center, to give a nice ventilation system to the pyramid. Count with me those gaps. Up in this area, about 3 years ago, they discovered a gap, a void of 30 meters wide, non-accessible yet. So here is another gap. A few months ago, you see the people standing in the very top part? This is an expedition. They found a 9 meters in corridor, 3 or 4 months ago. And they still, it was in the summertime. Summertime here is a killer. So they stopped working and they only picked up maybe 2 days ago. So, archaeologists, the ones who was up there. So, all of those gaps, have you counted with me? 3 burial chambers connected to each other, so 3 corridors, 2 ventilation shafts. This void, 30 meters wide, the new entrance that they found, 9 meters deep so far. All of those gaps, how did they manage to distribute the weight of 2.5 million blocks? 2.5 million blocks of limestones. This is the number of stones used for the pyramids. 2.5 blocks of limestones. The weight of those limestones is between 3, 4, 7 tons. 7, 4, 3. As you go higher, the scale of the stone gets a little bit smaller. My mom used to teach history, my dad used to teach math. I suck in math. 1 and 1 plus 1 needs a calculator. Do the math. So 2.5, let's say 4.5 tons. Do the math. How did they manage to distribute the weight of those thousands of tons away from crashing those gaps? Do we know for sure? No. Do we have a theory? Yes, maybe. How they did it? Maybe. So the whole construction is out of limestone.
How come with all your scriptures and all that, there's nothing written about it?
I'll tell you how come. So the whole thing is out of limestone. But you can say that the core or the heart of the pyramid from the inside is out of rose granite. Rose granites in Egypt, you can only get from Aswan, which is about 1,000 kilometers south. So, what does the rose granites do to help to distribute the weight? So let's say they brought blocks of rose granites and they built a step pyramid inside, like this. Can you see this? Little bit. So we have a gap here. We have a big block here, leaning on those two. Those two is leaning on those two. So the big one in the middle takes the pressure to those two, then those two, then those two. So this is how they distribute the weight away from the gap, and this is how they created a gap inside, so you can do the burial chambers and build the burial chamber, the corridors. Maybe, not for sure. No one can tell you for sure this is how they did it. But because of those grounds inside, everyone, like, they developed the theory that this is how it was done. That this is how it was done. The big block, by the way, that creates the ceiling on top of the small granite pyramid inside is 20 by 20, about 70 tons. One single piece. So this takes you to another thing. How did he manage to get this from Aswan, 1,000 kilometers, all the way here, and how it was lifted up inside? All of those mysteries. 149.4 meters high. 149.4 meters high. This is how high is the Great Pyramid. Really, Adham, you're going to mention the 0.4? Yes. Because if you multiply this number by something like 10,000 or something like that, it gives you the distance, exactly the distance between the Earth and the Sun. 149.4 billion kilometers.
So you're saying they were better maps?
Much more, they were better in everything, much more than anyone now.
Yes, I agree.
Because, this is one thing, the Egyptians left nothing to coincidence. Nothing to coincidence. So the distance between the Earth and the Sun, the height is not coincidence. It can't be that exact. How they cut the stones. This pyramid was built, those stones was built with no, like, nothing to keep those stones attached to the blocks or mixture like cement or concrete between the stones. And they have perfect cuts. Perfect cuts. So zero mistake. Zero fault. Which is something nowadays with all the modern technology that we have, no one does. No one can do this. It's like airtight between the stones. Nowadays, no one can do it. So what type of tools and skills we had to do to masterpiece this? A mystery. And this is the beauty of the Great Pyramid and the pyramids in general, is that we still, after those thousands of years, we still don't know anything about it. So the question here was, how come there is no inscriptions, no carvings, no hieroglyphics, nothing? In Saqqara there is a pyramid called Unas. The burial chamber survived of this pyramid, the pyramid didn't. That holds what we call the pyramid text. And this is when the language was carved for the first time in the history. And this is after this one. So we always say before the pyramid text or after. Means simply before they start to carve the language or after. This was before. This was before. Everything was written on paper. Tablets, the ancient Egyptian people. The description, the journey to the afterlife, the Imidiwat book, the book of this, the book of the Cripples, the book of the underworld. After Unas, they started to carve those details of the 12 hours of night at the walls of the burial chamber for the soul of the king to find everything. So this is why this was before they started to carve the stones with hieroglyphs. From the outside, the Great Pyramid and the second pyramid, Khufu and Khafre, did not used to look like this. It used to have an outer layer, a soft case of limestones from the outside. You see this? used to be covered with a soft layer of limestone, a soft surface, not like steps like this. A soft surface of limestone all the way up to the top. Soft, polished with wax so it can resist humidity and wind. What happened to it? Elements, time, plus Muhammad Ali. You know Muhammad Ali? You know him well? No? You don't know him? The boxer? No, I'm talking about Muhammad Ali, the Ottoman king. So Muhammad Ali, the Ottoman king, he came as a king to Egypt in 1805. We can say that Muhammad Ali is the one who did the renaissance of modern Egypt as we know it. Factories, irrigation canals, lots of things. So he did great for the country. With one big negative point, which is always using the monuments, the old monuments, as quarries to extract stones.
Man in the middle, I've seen him on TV.
Sorry?
That man in the middle with the blue shirt on. Is he something to do with it? What they're doing, the work that they were doing up there? No? These three guys that stand there, the one in the middle?
I know, I see him, but I don't know him.
Sure, I've seen him on TV. It's all right, sorry to that.
So Muhammad Ali made it a point, always using the old monuments as quarries to extract stone to build something else. So what he did here is that he used the stone of the outer case to do what? There is a citadel or a fortress that was built by Saladin or Salah ad-Din, 1100, to defend Egypt against the Crusades. And it did the job until it was damaged by the cannons of the French general Napoleon Bonaparte. Muhammad Ali saw the damage and saw the opportunity of doing some restoration, so he restored the fortress. He built his mosque, Muhammad Ali Mosque. He built a palace, a Jawhara Palace, so he ruled Egypt from up there. And he did the restoration job and the construction of the mosque out of the limestones that were missing from here. So this is with all the limestones that we are missing from here. And the rest, just by time. So both the great and the second was covered by limestone. The third pyramid, so we have Khufu, Khufri, Min Kaula. The third pyramid was going to be covered from the outside with rose granites. But it's unfinished. So it was partly done around the entrance, the ground level, and obviously this king died, came a different royal family, didn't finish what he started. This is all what we can understand. So it was going to be covered with rose granite. And all the granite is still there, lying down on the floor. 149.4, the second one is 136, the third one is 66 meters high. Father, son, grandson. Behind each of those three pyramids I just mentioned, behind each one there is three smaller ones. There is three smaller ones for his royal family. For his royal family. In your free time, if anyone, as we said, asked you to join him or to see the tickets and he's going to show you around, no one here is authorized to do this. Before you go, do you have any questions? So now we are talking about lots of different opinions, but let's say almost 600, 6,500. I'll tell you.
Why in the shape of the pyramid? Why?
The shape of the pyramid because of the sun rays.
Okay.
And
wasn't to do with water then?
sorry?
Wasn't to do with water.
No. It's because of the sun rays. To receive the sun rays,